All right, here we go. Starting up again after a few weeks. I do apologize. I both somewhat didn't feel like streaming recently, and also sometimes there was not really that much specific to cover in the line of things that I usually would. And also, as I said a few months ago, all right, that's set to live. This is set to live. As I said a few months ago, my dad ended up getting a PS5, and so I no, we want Google Earth. And so apart from Oblivion for a little bit a couple months ago, recently I finally got Elden Ring, and I was playing a bunch of Elden Ring for quite some time. But we're back here now, especially now that over the last few days, a whole bunch of stuff has like really abruptly happened. Let's get the bookmarks up in case I want to reference. Ah, excellent. She finally got adopted. In case I need to reference anything that I think I'm forgetting. So I'll wait a few seconds, take one sip of water, let anyone else who's going to show up early, and then I'm going to get right into some stuff. So, to start off with, as we are waiting for more people to arrive, crude oil prices continue being held down in the suppressed range, sub 70, sub 65, even 65 is the minimum threshold break even in present day for shale. So, shale companies or any of the oil companies that are producing from shale, at least US shale that is mature, that's been producing for 15 or 20 years at this point, they need the price to be at least $65 per barrel in current year. But in reality, they want it to be a bit higher, like consistently above 70, or else they're going to start shutting stuff down so as to not lose money. So as the trend continues, as expected, US oil rig count continues to drop. Was up at around 480, now down to 410. And that has seen US oil production go from 13.5 down to 13.3. US oil production peaked about 6 or 7 months ago, about half a year ago at 13.6, and dropped a little bit before any of this started down to 13.5 and was just sticking around there, and then gradually started dropping to 13.4. And the quicker we went down with the drilling rig count, the faster it's been going. There is a bit of a lag that you'll see between the count drop and the actual output drop. So now down to 13.3. Probably before the end of this month, it will be closer to 13.2, unless a bunch of stuff switches course. Although later this year, one of those two larger fields offshore in the Gulf, I think like 60 or 80,000 barrels per day will switch on. So that will be a sudden upshoot back upwards. And the one other oil thing before we go into the war and political stuff, offshore, further offshore, as a lot of the stuff that was producing already was in sort of this range, and it's this range out here that has not really been touched, but has now sold off a bunch of blocks, and a bunch of exploration is about to start there, and will likely have a continuation of the prolific stuff that was seen in this area. As this fans out, you can see here, as it fans out and becomes part of the deep sea floor, you reach a transitional portion where there's going to be less and less, but closer to the boundary where everything already was, there will still be some big stuff like this one that was just found out here a few days ago. That discovery was confirmed with a 500-meter thick, a 500-meter thick vertically, what was it? Reservoir reservoir rock. Sorry, not walk, rock. That is expected to turn out in the billions, and will likely, when it is brought online, probably 5 to 7 years from now, it will likely have a startup level uh, close to 400 or 500,000 barrels per day. So Brazil's levels in the future, whether they are going up quickly or slowly or are stagnant at that particular point, when that field activates, that will be a sudden just upward lunge, and then a resumption of whatever trend was already ongoing at the time. Lagging, 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 wait, wait, wait. Google is doing everything. Google Earth is back to normal. Okay. Apologize for those few seconds. That's going to happen every now and then because Google Earth is ruining everything, like always. Did we get anybody? Doesn't look like it. Oh, no, never mind. We do have people. Why is that not scrolled down? There we go. The chat is actually like open and accessible, right? It's just that no one's actually typing anything. If it's like not there or something, or if it's like closed for some reason, do let me know. All right. 2 oil things out of the way. So, multiple times now over the past few days, you may have seen in regular news if you watch those, but I think I bookmarked another separate announcement down here somewhere, buried under a bunch of stuff because a lot of stuff's been happening. All right, I'm not scrolling down indefinitely, but it was previously expected by anyone with a brain, obviously, and previously leaked to the surprise of no one, but it has now been officially admitted to / announced by the Israeli government themselves that the IDF is in fact actually going to occupy the entirety of Gaza for a unspecified period of time, which, translates over, which, the translation of that means conquest and annexation. Under the whole spiel of it's for the like it's for the safety and prosperity of the Palestinian people or something. But they've already, publicly talked with multiple world leaders in the past about, the idea of like dumping them off in Libya somewhere. So, yeah, we all know what this is. And finally, we all know that it is in the hundreds of thousands at least, but the actual like officially recognized death toll was basically frozen at 56K in terms of civilians killed in Gaza. However, it has now finally been quietly acknowledged that, okay, well, maybe it's actually 82,000. And you're going to see this keep happening most likely where I'd say every few months, there's going to be uh, quietly acknowledged, as in articles, uh, corrections articles or admission articles will be published without being put on like any kind of front pages. They'll be published and thus they'll be publicly available. And, so they'll be outside the realm of being able to be blamed for like denying anything, but they won't actually be like announced or publicly admitted in any big way. Every few months, you're going to see this happen again where uh, they'll quietly acknowledge, like, okay, maybe it actually is over 100,000. And then, the next one, like, maybe it actually is 150,000 until they finally get up to something like 500,000, which is around where it actually is. So that is happening. And also, I thought they were going to just start lighting stuff up again, but apparently it was a one time thing. So there is I'm just going to put C for ceasefire in quotation marks. There is a quote unquote ceasefire between Iran and Israel still going on. However, they have not obeyed it. Israel has continued striking Iran just very lightly, like every other night or every 3 nights. They'll like send one or two F-35s over and drop like a couple bombs, two, three, maybe on like one specific target, kill like one Revolutionary Guard general or something. And Iran launches a few drones here and there, has the Houthis launch quite literally one ballistic missile per day, and it all gets blocked and shot down. It looked like it was about to relight the other night. Sorry, not in Iran. It was over in western Iran somewhere, because there was actually a big strike, a big light up at one of Iran's airfields in western Iran. Uh, not that their air force is really functional, but one one particular airbase with a number of air defense systems and some of their remaining probably not functional but maybe functional aircraft was struck pretty hard. As in, this was probably like a dozen or more aircraft dropping a few dozen bombs on this. It was not like a small little overnight thing, but nothing has happened since then. So uh, I guess they just wanted to throw that one bigger punch right now, satiate themselves until restarting later. Supposed hints about that being, I guess, October, November, but we will have to see. Uh, the sorry, not Myanmar and Thailand. The Thailand and Cambodia stuff has stopped. That ceasefire actually is real and is completely holding, at least for the moment. The end result of that, all that ended up just being Cambodia for the week that lasted, randomly firing rocket artillery into Thailand and killing about like 30, quite literally random people, like not even blind fire hitting like any of Thailand's military personnel, and Thailand in response bombing the rocket artillery sites that Cambodia was using to shell into Thailand with. But those two have actually stopped. And so that is now holding there for the moment. We'll wait and see if that starts up again at any particular time. Now, to the recent repeat of DJ Khaled's Wabam, another one. After I check one more time. Okay, so chat does work. Thank you for confirming that. We had 5. All right, I'm to blame. I'm to blame for this. You guys can blame me. It is my fault for, streaming right now instead of 2 hours earlier. But one of my neighbor's cats, the dumber one, was being really dumb tonight. And I spent like, I don't know, over 20 minutes circling around under a tree that she went up like 20 feet into. And I was waiting, hoping she could figure out how to get back down. I was going to try to catch her if she just jumped for it and, take the claws and the blood as they came. But she actually figured out her way back down. She sort of bear hugged it and climbed all 20 feet down backwards. But, anyways, we have had quite a week of non-stop wabam another one strikes going on. So Ukraine has struck railway junctions slash rail yards slash depot stations across the rail lines, going up and down in this L pattern. So stuff coming from the east would be passing through this one. Stuff coming down from the north usually would also be passing through there. And then they would then both pass through here to either go across into the occupied portion of eastern Ukraine or down here and over to Crimea. So they have been hammering those rail yards and junction sites over and over and over again. And uh, ease of doing so was granted by the fact that at multiple of these sites, there were large fuel trains stopped at the same time at each one. So the drone strikes were able to light up the fuel trains, and then the rest kind of took care of itself. So, apart from military rail shipments and just general cargo shipments, which then plays into Russian economics, that it's also even affecting regular passenger rail service, which people were having to start to turn to because air travel is starting to break down, not just because Russian airlines are operating at only half of their viable fleets, since they are cut off from parts for repair and maintenance work on their air fleet, but also the fact that they can't get renewals on their like operating software, all of which is apparently non-Russian because that's the sad fact that's being found out by the government over there with everything critical. They can't get the renewals because they're blocked from that too. And I guess the airlines are not smart enough or competent enough to, you know, find and buy pirated versions of the software at the very least. So their like computer systems and everything are breaking down and they're having difficulty managing stuff. And so there are constant mass cancellations and delays. So the Russian government is having to bail all of them out. On top of now, we are entering the summer of bank bailouts as the Russian government has had to bail out various banks to the tune of billions each, as they need the banks to continue existing since the banks are the ones buying Russian government bonds or giving the Russian government money on the orders of the Russian government, who in turn uh, funds them and gives them money to then give back to them, or rather, is printing more and more money to hand over to the banks to then have the banks give them in the whole circular cycle. The ruble is 2 lines under the P, right? I think. Going, circular, all these squares make a circle. As regular revenues and stuff are now kinda not a thing. The oil and gas companies have gone negative dollars. We've been talking about this since the start of the year, and especially now that the oil prices are staying under the are staying so low constantly compared to what they previously were. All of the auto industries are now losing money, and Moscow is having to empty money out into them so that they can keep making stuff because they're the ones that are making the vehicles that the Russian military is now dependent on, such as pickup trucks and Scooby Doo vans. But, that's neither here nor there. So that's ongoing. And also, uh, they know they have a limit. Not sure what the tolerance threshold would be, but they do have a limit on how high they can increase taxes on the general populace. But they did up taxes on people's electricity bills and gas bills for heating and or stoves and cooking by I think that was one was 12% and the other was 14%. They did that a couple of months ago in April or May. And even though it was a small percentage, everybody got really, really pissed. So they're kind of aware, can't exactly go that route again, at least not within like the next month or two while it's still fresh on everybody's minds. But also, apparently, close to 1 million employees in Russia are about to have a 20% salary cut as various companies are now going to switch over to only operating 4 days a week because the demand for their products across the country and abroad is not enough to warrant 5 day per week operations. And did indeed confirm that they're not, it's not going to be a 4 day work week with the employees still getting paid for the fifth day. They are going to only be getting paid for those 4 days. So that's 800,000 people going to have a 20% salary cut, which will thus further, you know, affect spending and everything, drag stuff down, and reduced taxes from them since they're earning less, and thus reduced taxes also from the less things that they buy, which then results in more stuff having to slow down. And so we continue with the circles here. And then back to the strikes. On top of the railways, we've been going for oil refinery strikes again. One, two. Ryazan is this one, right? I still know my oblasts, right? That's Ryazan. No, that's Oriol. Damn it. Okay. Ryazan's over there. Okay. Darn. I need to get back to practicing my geography stuff. All right. Uh, Ryazan, and the other one was it Belgorod? No, I think it was Bryansk. All right, I'm not sure on the fourth where the fourth one was, but 4 oil refineries struck in just like the last 3 days, 2 of which had to shut down, and the other 2 have had to drop to only half normal operations, which on top of everything already going, added on to suddenly rapidly rising gasoline or fuel prices in Russia. So Russian fuel prices are kind of semi-subsidized, not to the insane extent that they are in like Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf states. But they were always pretty low. And you have the mega COVID drop like everybody else. And then 2022, they briefly went way up to, I believe it was 93 cents per liter, which is around $3.50 a gallon. Then they edged back down and have since hung out around between 65 and 70 cents per liter and started climbing this year. And now, over just the last month, they've been going basically straight up. And as of now, they're close to 90. I think they're at 87 as of when I did the math yesterday, but that was for yesterday's numbers. So they might be at 88 or 89 by now. So they're going to be passing their record gasoline prices soon. The shutdown of these refineries, obviously not helping with that. But they also, to try to slow this down, the government of Moscow put a freeze on all gasoline exports so that there will be more domestic supply on the market. That has not slowed it down that much. It probably would be up over 93 by now if they hadn't done that last week, but it's not actually slowing it down that much. And also, uh, that is now, let me draw some angry face emojis. That is now uh, not having their refined fuel export customers like that happy with them, but kind of have to pick and choose at that point. All right. What else did we have here? Uh, the the banks overall in Russia have now declined greatly to the point of only issuing roughly 30% of the same rough amount or value of loans of all different kinds the first half of this year as they did the first half of last year. As since things continually downturn, no matter how much Moscow keeps classifying additional categories of data, you can't actually hide everything. Uh, Trump's doing this over here in the US now, not by classifying stuff, but by firing whoever the head of the like statistics department was on during whatever particular month statistics got published that he didn't like, because that's going to make the statistics not be true or something. Sort of like half the way to what Putin and Kim Jong Un do, except usually that's more just straight up murking people or having them commit suicide via a self-inflicted gunshot straight on dead angle 90 degrees to the back of the head, because that's just how flexible that particular person was. But since the amount of people and corporate entities that can, or that the banks believe can at least keep up loan payments, not necessarily repay the loan, but can just keep up payments, has dropped so dramatically, apparently, over the last year. They are down to issuing only about 30%, the same rough amount or value of loans as they did last year. So we'll watch and see how that continues to go. And oh yeah, I almost forgot. It's in Engels is in Saratov, right? Uh, I am still right about that, right? It is in Saratov or is it in Volgograd? How close do I have to zoom before it shows up? I remember, was it on the border or was it one of the ones that's like right next to? Oh, okay, it is right next to Saratov, the city. So, as of just a few minutes before starting this, there was stuff coming out on Telegram and alarms being raised over apparently similar to the stuff you saw way back at the start of June. Another incident had just begun, basically like an hour ago, of drone swarms suddenly erupting out of the backs of like generic trucks on the side of the road or passing by Engels Air Force Base on the side of the road. So no idea of the actual outcome of that yet. Probably have to wait till morning. But that was just happening as like just before I started streaming this. And I think that's going to be it. Oh, yeah. Also, so uh, I guess the Israeli government found a new solution for President Netanyahu to avoid jail time. So the strategy up to this point, as I've been saying, was to uh, just keep these conflicts going to some degree of intensity so that he could constantly, maintain a state of national emergency since he cannot legally be like arrested or taken to court during a state of national emergency. They found a new solution, I guess, and the uh, he couldn't do it himself because that would be like dead obvious. But the like lower sections of government underneath him just fired and or dismissed the like directors and prosecutors of the Justice Department that were actually trying to hold him to account for all the corruption stuff that he was in for. So that I guess that's problem solved for him now. At this point, I'm really surprised he didn't just kill them because probably could just get away with it at this point. I think that is all I have on the list of stuff. Let me check, see if nobody else showed up to say anything. Nope. All right, then. Thank you, everybody who did show up. That's going to be it for this one. And I will see you guys around.